Welcome to Raising Consciousness with me, Lou Burrows, where raising human consciousness happens. On this show, I'm joined by guests to cover a range of topics and have conversations that will raise human consciousness for current and future generations. Now, let's dive into today's show. Hi everyone, welcome back to Raising Consciousness with myself, Lou Burrows, and today, I am super pumped for this one, guys, because we have Niraj, who is the CEO of SOMA Breath, joining us on the show. And Niraj, I have to tell you that. So I came across your work through Mind Valley. I've been a Mind Valley member for about 2 years or so. And when your program, your quest dropped into Mind Valley, I was so excited. I was running around the house, just on the moment I came across it, because I think I watched Vishen kind of announce the quests that were coming over a 3-month period, and yours was one of them. So when that day dropped, when that day happened, I was very excited, because going more deeper into breathwork has been something that I definitely wanted to do, and your quest definitely helped with that. So thank you so much for that. I just definitely wanted to let you know about that. But for those who maybe have been living under a rock and don't know who you are, in a minute or so, who is Niraj, what do you do, and how did you start your own breathwork journey?
All right, I'll try. Minute is going to be tight, but so in a nutshell, I'm the founder of SOMA Breath. We're an international school of breathwork, meditation, and transformation, basically different modalities that I've demystified, made more easy to understand, put science to it, added really cool music to it that powers a lot of these transformative experiences, because transformation occurs best when people enter into peak states, or a state that is very memorable and high emotion. And when you combine what we do, our message and our techniques in that vibration, you get big changes. So I wanted to make that process more fun and more exciting, because a lot of what was out there just kind of sucked. So that's what we've achieved to do with SOMA Breath, and it's grown into a massive community with over 2,000 instructors around the world. And we work with people like Mind Valley. They've been helping us a lot. We have an affiliation with Rituals, a big cosmetics brand. We've built a whole state-of-the-art mind spa in Amsterdam, and they use our stuff. We partner with psychedelic therapy clinics and so on and so forth. There's lots of different partnerships we're doing with people. But it all began through my own healing journey. I healed myself of a chronic illness, got very sick, and it was going through that because I tried all the conventional treatments. I was a pharmacist, did all the things that modern medicine tells you to do. I was even told that there's no cure, you're going to be on this for the rest of your life. Basically, bullshit. And luckily, I turned that around. I learned a few simple techniques, and from my Swami, who's a yoga teacher, she taught me some techniques that aren't taught in the mainstream yoga world, kind of high-level yogic practices, which are very simple, actually, breath-based practices, and using your breath in different ways, holding your breath in different ways, using intention and mindset and affirmation, things like that. And that gave me so much relief that I went down the yoga rabbit hole, and I realized there's so much wealth of wisdom here, but there's also a lot of nonsense. So I wanted to get hardcore science on this stuff, and I came across an amazing doctor, Prakash Marsh, who's in the Himalayas. He's a yogi as well as a medical doctor, and he's done really amazing research on ancient breathing techniques. And that's where I learned the power of breath holds and kumbhaka, most revered technique. In fact, there's one technique, Nishesha Richaka, which is a mystical technique that's been hidden away. And I revised it and made it much more therapeutic, and made it into a protocol, which is in our 21-day awakening journey, or protocol is known as. And we get profound results to the point where Cambridge University are now studying this protocol right now. So Prakash Marsh is a co-creator on the curriculum. So I've taken his work and added my own work and the music behind it to make it more fun, and put it together into a very easy to digest system that is now arming our instructors with incredible tools to fight against chronic health issues, mental health issues, but also help people enter into peak states to have a closer connection to themselves, others around them, and even use it to manifest and call things into their life. So that's it.
Amazing.
I don't think that was a minute.
Excellent. No worries. So it's interesting because a lot of this ancient wisdom I've noticed has come from more like the East. Why do you feel that is, or why is that? Is that like ingrained into their culture, and how can more like the West play catch up with that, because obviously it's so transformational for everyone, no matter where you come from. And so that's something I wanted to put to you, because I know that you've dived into that. I actually came across, for your quest as well, the Ayurveda system as well. So I've been exploring that. That's also a curiosity of mine. And yeah, it just seems like a lot of it comes from the East, and I'm curious why that is.
Great question. So it's all to do with just human civilization's evolution, right? So the time cycles of human evolution. So the most ancient civilizations, because this stuff is very ancient knowledge, right? Ancient wisdom. The earliest civilizations were usually there was India, there was Egypt, and there's the Sumerians, Babylon, that kind of Middle Eastern area, Mesopotamia. So here were the earliest civilizations, and they had their own schools of breath-based, energy moving techniques, right? So they became the religions that we know today. Hinduism, then you have the Jewish mystics, you have Kabbalah, they have breath-based techniques. You have Qigong, Tai Chi in China, right? You have, which also came from India originally. So really, it's just, and Africa actually, there's African shamanism that have their own shamanic practices. And then you have in the northern Caucasus regions and Russia, the shamans who had their own breathing exercises and different practices. So what happened was there was one original kind of culture that was, you could say it's Atlantis even, maybe at some point. But there was a tribal culture which, according to the Vedic religion, they were all addicted to substance called soma. And what happened was the soma starts running out and they all freak out, because this soma gives them everything. It gives them immortality. It gives them complete control over the body and physiology. It gives them divine bliss states. It helps them speak to God and the spirit world, right? So it does many things. I think nobody knows what soma is. I think it was just a word for plant medicines, different types of plant substances, medicines of different concoctions, basically pharmacy, their own natural herbal-based maybe pharmacy, right? But what happens was maybe things that they're dependent on runs out. As we do now, we're all so dependent on external things like the pharmaceutical industry, TV, media, iPhone, right? Look at how people react. Like kids, watch them when you take away their phone. See how they react when they're so glued to their phones and say, hey, I'm taking that off you. And they go crazy. They get spastic because they're so addicted to it. Take away cigarettes from a smoker. They're going to lose their shit, right? We're so addicted to stuff. Look, take away somebody's drugs, their medicines, right, from the pharmacy. They're not going to know what to do, and they're going to have a freak out too, and the disease may get worse. So we're so dependent on the external world. Now, these yogis back in the day went, right, we cannot be so dependent on this stuff anymore. We have to find a way to create it from within. And that becomes the foundation of tantric yoga. Tantric yoga is a source of all spiritual practice, in my opinion. Of all these later spiritual practices that we see today, it started with tantric yoga. And there's many branches of tantric. It's really a way of life and a system of complete mastery over the body, mind, and the spirit, right? And pranayama is one of the first steps of it. So we are pranayama based, and we also encompass actually in our system all the other branches of yoga. But instead of it being so complicated and difficult to understand, I've simplified it and made it easier to understand. But the roots are ancient. I haven't made anything completely new from scratch. All I've done is combine my knowledge of music and rhythm with rhythmic breathing exercises and then kind of breath journeys, which is guided by the music, because music is a great accompaniment to the whole practice. And because of modern technology, it means that we can make very, very powerful musical-based practices that people can do through the internet with MP3s, So modern technology combined with this ancient stuff and modern science is what is Soma Breath.
I've come across a range of different of these practices, so you mentioned beforehand about like Qigong, so I came across that as well. And I feel like sometimes it can be a little bit like overwhelming, to practice breathwork, practice Qigong, meditation, kind of all these different practices, etc. To go back to like the basics, what would your words of wisdom be to someone who wants to kind of get into this because they see the power that it has for them to maybe heal with some conditions, but also actually just to grow themselves, and become a better version of themselves and to live life fully? Like, where would you direct them, or does it depend on the person? I'm curious to explore that.
Yeah, great question. So here's the thing, right? You got to remember this, okay? And super important that if you think about it, right, you can go without food for a month or two, maybe. You can go without water for a few weeks or even days, right? But breathing, you can only go without for a few minutes. So that is the most important thing to master. Once you master your breath, then all these other things are easier to master, actually, like diet, nutrition, exercise, all that stuff, right? So breath is what I focus on because that's what gave me the most immediate relief. And there's a science to why this is important, because the breath is how we produce energy in the body, right? With our quantum understanding of the world, everything is energy now, right? E equals M. Energy is matter, right? It's a duality. They coexist. So there's no separation. Now, if the breath is the way you control energy in the body and everything is energy, and your inner world becomes your outer world, then by controlling your inner world through pranayama, breathing techniques, right, that controls the breath, we have control of the inner world, the autonomic nervous system, because the breath is the one thing that runs on both autopilot, but also we have conscious control over. Therefore, it gives us conscious control over the physiology. But the other thing is that every single function in your body is rhythmic. So you have biorhythms, circadian rhythms, infradian, ultradian rhythms, and the rhythm of your breath, which you can control yourself. Every single other function in your body is subservient to that function. So with rhythmic breathing, we can completely harmonize every function in your body. It's truly profound. So the important thing is, and let's look at breath as a science now, okay, and why it's so important, is that there's three gases you want to pay attention to. First is oxygen, which we all know, okay? Second is carbon dioxide, right, which we've been told is a toxic waste gas. However, it is really the prana in pranayama. I'll explain why in a minute. And the other one is nitric oxide, NO. Nitric oxide is only produced through the nose. So if, remember, nose, N-O-S-E, NO, the first two letters, nose, right? And nitric oxide is the most powerful antioxidant, antimicrobial, antibacterial. It's a bronchodilator, vasodilator. It controls your blood pressure. It also is part of the process of activating stem cells and initiating their function. And it's the most powerful antioxidant, right? Now, why do we need antioxidants? Because oxygen is oxidative. It causes oxidative stress on the body, right? It combusts everything. It's like a fire, right? And where is energy produced in the body? It's in the mitochondria, because when we breathe in, the oxygen goes in to produce energy in the mitochondria, right? But in order to get to the mitochondria first, it has to do something. It has to come off your red blood cells and enter into your body tissue cells. Now, here lies the problem for most people. This gaseous exchange going on right here. What's necessary for this to be efficient and to be very effective is CO2. Carbon dioxide is what is like the gatekeeper. It's a signal that tells oxygen, the levels of CO2, tells where the oxygen should be dropped off by your red blood cells in your body, right? So that we're talking about your body tissue cells, your muscle cells, your organ cells, all the other cells of your body, right? So if you don't have enough CO2, you're not going to get enough oxidation of your cells where the mitochondria is. So you're not going to have efficient energy being produced. Got it? So we need the right balance of CO2. Now, the problem is that if we overbreathe by hyperventilation, talking too much like I'm doing right now, by being unhealthy, overeating, there's many causes of hyperventilation. Chronic mild hyperventilation is the cause of most diseases, right? Especially high blood pressure and heart disease and diseases that are result of overoxidation, okay? So we have to bring oxygen and make it our friend, because though mitochondria is actually like furnaces, they're like combustion engines actually. It's like just like a car, right? So we have all these tiny little car engines inside our cells, and the oxygen burns, it combusts, it makes like an inner fire, and that has a side effect. It has free radical production, oxidative stress, and that can wear and tear and cause damage to the cell eventually, unless you have enough antioxidants. And what's the most potent antioxidant? Nitric oxide. So that's why what we have to do is make oxygen our friend, control CO2 levels so we have a high CO2 tolerance so that we can handle good amount of CO2 in our system, and we're not overbreathing and hyperventilating, so we're calm, energy efficient, we're going to live longer, be more focused, and generally happier to be around. And we want to produce nitric oxide on command, because then we won't get sick. And we do that through a protocol, right? My entire course is all about this, but just a few tips. Nasal breathing, always, don't breathe through your mouth, produce nitric oxide. Humming produces nitric oxide, all right? Nasal breathing also slows the airflow into your system. So that reduced airflow already starts to increase your CO2 levels, because when you breathe out CO2, right? So if you have less airflow going in and out, you actually retain more CO2. Other techniques like breath holding, slow breathing, helps retain CO2, so you get more CO2 in your system, the signal. And then oxygen, we don't want to be over breathing, we want to be efficient. So we want more mitochondria, and we want to be able to run on less oxygen. So our process is all about becoming oxygen efficient, so you need to breathe less. So what that will mean is your breathing rate goes down, and so you have a lower breathing rate, okay? Because in yoga, you measure somebody's lifespan by the number of breaths they take, not by their heart rate and things like that. You do it by number of breaths. So people who live long, they breathe much less, okay? They have a lower breathing rate. Average is like 15 to 20 breaths per minute. We're going lower than 15 breaths, because you don't want to be average, you want to be superhuman. So you want to have a breathing rate less than 10 breaths per minute, right? So that's the three gases we just talked about, how to simply start to bring that into balance. Now, our course goes way more into depth and shows you lots of different breathing hacks that you can use, and other breathing techniques that makes it into like a pharmacy of breathing techniques, all right? So that's what we need to do to start to master the breath and to become in control of us. When we start to do that and we start to improve our breathing habits, we can then start going into much more advanced breathing techniques, where we can enter into altered states of consciousness, have psychedelic experiences, go into nirvana-like realms, right? Samadhi states. But really, to enter into those states, really genuinely, okay, you need to master your breath to a point where your breathing rate has slowed down and become more calm. And what you'll see when somebody is really efficient with their breath is that their breath becomes slow, silent, subtle, and rhythmic and diaphragmatic. All right? That's the sign of a healthy, happy human. This is what Lao Tzu said many thousands of years ago. I don't know, actually, not thousands, but yes, 1,000 years ago. Chinese philosopher said, as Lao Tzu said, a perfect human breathes like they don't breathe at all. And so you'll see people who are very optimized with their breath, like you seem to be too. They have very subtle breathing. Their diaphragm is where they breathe into. They never breathe through their mouth, and it doesn't look like they're breathing at all. They're so energy efficient. They don't need oxygen. So all this breathe more motherfucker shit is nonsense. Sorry. We need to breathe less.
No, definitely.
No offense to Wim Hof. Wim Hof's my brother, man. Wim Hof's my bro. And the thing is, he is right, because there's the way, if what he means is breathe more doing his method. If you do that, you're going to get all the benefits I just said, right? Because there's similar techniques. So that's what he's referring to. But ultimately, we want to train ourselves to need to breathe less over time. And that's what our course is designed to do. We make it customized to the individual, right, using Ayurveda, because we're all individual, we're all unique. So we have breathing techniques that work better for certain types of people, like myself, my unique bio-individuality. And then we have other breathing techniques that work for more like the big muscle-bound heroes and women and men. And they're different. We're all different. We're all unique. So we need to honor that, and that's why we can't do a one-size-fits-all, here's the cure for everything approach, because that's not true. It's bullshit. Yeah.
Breath holds. So when it comes to breath holds, like, talk us through the purpose, the power of the breath hold. And I maybe it's a bit of a selfish question with that, because when I practice some of the breath work, I notice that sometimes I can on the breath hold my breath for quite a long period of time, and other times not as long. And so what can affect the duration of our breath hold?
Okay, good question. So what's the point of breath retention? So in pranayama, the most revered technique of all is kumbhaka, which means breath hold, breath retention. And you have antara kumbhaka, which is breath hold after inhale. You have baya kumbhaka, which is breath hold after exhale, right? Then you have this other technique, nishesha richaka, which is holding your breath after the exhale to maximum effort, till you cannot possibly hold it any longer. And if you hack that by getting rid of CO2, because CO2 is what tells your brain you need to breathe again. When you let go of all the CO2, it means you can hold your breath for much longer than you think. And that allows you to go into deeper breath holds. When you start getting to those deeper breath holds, around 60 to 90 seconds, right, you wake up a cascade of different effects in the body, because around 60 to 90 seconds, you get into this state called intermittent hypoxia. Intermittent hypoxia is a lower than normal oxygen level in the bloodstream. And when you take something away from the body for a brief period, it kind of creates a positive stress on the body. It makes the body go, oh, I'm running out. I need to adapt to this environment. I'm in a low oxygen environment. So what it does is it produces more red blood cells. It wakes up blood vessels. It get more blood flow to your brain, to your heart. You get blood flow going into your brain, and you start to get, boom, aha moments and incredible, like, kind of awakening of new powers of the mind, right? Cognition goes up, concentration goes up, many different benefits. Your creativity goes to the roof. Whole brain awakening happens, right? So that's one of the side effects of this. And you can train to do even longer breath holds. What this also does is, in this process, you start to get more mitochondria being produced. And over time, with practice, you become more energy efficient. Your oxygen levels, the amount of oxygen you need goes dramatically down, right? And then your breath becomes more silent, subtle, and all the other benefits I said, rhythmic and diaphragmatic as a result. We have a strong emphasis, SOMA Breath, on the rhythm. So the way we do it is rhythmic breathing precisely to a beat. And this creates a perfect rhythm and harmony in the body and physiology. That's the real secret sauce of what I'm talking about. But so we do combinations of normal breathing or rhythmic breathing followed by breath holds, and we get people into these very deep states. Now, when you get, again, beyond 60, 90 seconds, we start to then wake up stem cells out of the system. Stem cells have the ability to heal, rejuvenate, lower inflammation in your body, okay, which is amazing, all right? Stem cells are, people spend thousands of dollars extracting them. Imagine if you could just, on command with breath holds, wake up stem cells. Epic, right? Other ways you can do it is sauna, go in intense sauna. and also ice baths. That also, so extreme cold, extreme heat, and low oxygen wakes up stem cells in the system. Okay, stem cells hate oxygen; they like anaerobic environments. So brief low oxygen, boom, stem cells come out and start to heal you and repair you, right? So that's another benefit. The other one, last benefit, is altered states. So when you get into low oxygen states, you actually start to switch off the default mode network. You turn off the part of the mind that is your sense of self, your ego. It's the ego of your brain, right? And this is what's programmed and conditioned, and it creates your sense of self and identity. When you switch that off for a bit, all right, by reducing the oxygenation of that area, you wake up this psychedelic-like effect. It's the same way psilocybin works. And you get this like mushroom-like awakening going on. And that is why you can use this also as a therapy. So with SOMA Breath, you'll see I use guided meditations with the breathing techniques with an intention. So then it becomes therapeutic. You can help people overcome the past, get over guilt, shame, grief, sorrow. You can make people have ecstatic states and get more motivation and drive to go after what they want, to manifest what they really want, call it in. So it's a very dynamic modality that I've created here.
How long does this all take? You know, like, I know, you know, things that are worth experiencing, etc., you know, to take time. And I guess I'm asking that because, so I started really diving into this type of breath work probably October last year, I think. And it's more recently that, you know, my breath hold time is, like improved drastically. And I feel like I'm starting to see a lot of the benefits of doing it for about 6 months or so, you know. And so that's, for me, you know, like anything, you know, if it's going to the gym, eating well, whatever it is that all these things, all these habits take time, right? And so particularly with breathwork, what would your message be to someone who, let's just say, they inspired by this conversation and they, you know, take your course or start to dive into it after this episode? Yeah, like, what results can they expect? Or does it, again, you mentioned beforehand that everyone's individuals, does it depend on the individual and where basically they're at in their life?
Great question, man. So yes, you're right. Everyone's unique individual. Some people take action, others don't. So, you know, we're all different. But the breath, as I said, you can only last 3 minutes without it. So just as quickly as you can die if you don't breathe, by mastering your breath, pretty much almost as quickly, you can get incredible benefits, right? So remember, breathing is like a pharmacist. There's many different breathing techniques. Now, one breathing technique unblocks your nose, and that can work in like 10 seconds. You can clear all your sinuses. Like, you may go to a pharmacy and you go and buy decongestants and get frigging rebound congestion and all kinds of problems by using it too often. You have the ability to decongest on command. One technique, unblock your nose, works in like 10, 15 seconds. Other techniques like lowering your blood pressure and getting calm are instant too. So many of the pharmacy techniques, like fixing constipation, even going to the toilet if you need to, you know, things like that, they work very quickly. Even going to sleep, slowing your breathing down, turning on parasympathetic nervous system is instant. You can actually switch which brain hemisphere is more predominant in a few minutes. So if you want to be more creative and have more passive kind of receptivity and just to basically enjoy meditative states, you can turn on the right brain instantly, right? If you want to be more focused, have more drive, have your digestive fire going, have energy, and be awake and alert, switch on the left brain, you can do that in a few minutes too. So yeah, these techniques will take a long time, not a long time. But if you want to, I mean, there's another one actually, fixes heartburn very instantly by drinking air into your bowels. So oxygen kills bad bacteria in your bowels. It also satiates the appetite and it gets rid of heartburn. That technique, again, is like instant. Like within a few minutes is done, right? Now, the altered states of consciousness stuff, you can, within 30 minutes, you can get into altered states. An hour, you can get into profound states of mind, right? But if you do our 21-day awakening journey in 3 weeks, if you do our Breathwork course first, which takes around 11 days to 14 days, then you do our 21 days, which is 3 weeks, back to back. You'll master your breath, learn all the breath pharma techniques, and then you can do the 21-day awakening protocol, which takes you into these samadhi states at the end of it, long breath holds. After that, people completely dramatically change their life. They're not the same person ever again, right? So pretty quickly, this stuff works. But for real, getting into that yogic-like breath holds, right? That's the way of life. You need to keep it up. You need to keep doing it. A little bit every day can help you really dramatically keep your breath holds long and your CO2 tolerance high and your breathing rate down. And that will change your life. Just doing that. You're going to have amazing health benefits from doing that.
Amazing. So in terms of breath work, in the quest on Mind Valley, you talk about all breath work in the morning. So for people who are like, oh, why is that? Why is all breath work done better in the morning? And does that mean like we can't practice it in the evening, or is it just it's better at that time? It's more optimal. If people can do it at that time, do it at that time because it's going to give you the optimal results.
So, firstly, it's better to do in the morning on an empty stomach for a couple of reasons. Firstly, we have this issue between 4 and 7 a.m. of morning hyperventilation. It's where most heart attacks happen, 4 and 7 a.m. So really, we should be getting up at 4 a.m. and doing the practice from 4 a.m. if you're proper yogis. And I don't even do that yet, because I'm so busy doing stuff. So I really want to eventually get to that point where I'm waking up, going to sleep about 10 a.m., waking up at 4 a.m. I could do it actually now because my baby gets up at 4 a.m. So I could probably get into that routine. I want to do that. So that's my ambition. But I don't expect everybody to do that. So if you get up at like 7 a.m., you can correct what happens in your sleep, because we hyperventilate in our sleep quite often. We can correct it as soon as we wake up and re-harmonize the physiology, right? The right balance of oxygen and CO2, and then oxygenate the system. And you'll feel way better in the morning if you do the practice in the morning. Now, there's other breath pharma techniques that we have that are about sleep, digestion, energy, things, focus, that you can do throughout the day, right? But the full power breathwork, psychedelic stuff should always be done on an empty stomach and when you're feeling good, like not when you're like half asleep or just before you're going to go to bed. Yeah.
Excellent. One other question I did want to ask you was, and you kind of brought it up, was around the sauna. So yeah, talk us about the power that the breathwork and sauna has, and from my understanding, there's like different types of saunas. So what type should we be doing these practices in, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So sauna is my favorite place. It's like church, going to church. Now, my kind of Ayurvedic energy type, which is more Vata, loves heat more than cold. But I do the both together, rotate them around. Now, the more like muscle-bound hero types and the more heavy-set people, they prefer because they're usually fire. They prefer the cold more, right? So, but then they can also benefit from the rotation. So I recommend doing it together. You don't have to do ice baths. You can do very cold water, like submersion instead, right? So that's the thing. Now, the sauna is an amazing like kind of environment where you go super deep into your state of meditation. And when you can go into that state, in that kind of, I turn off all the lights, make it very dark, put on essential oils, and I do this breathing technique that goes against the heat. It cools the body down. So anything that stimulates parasympathetic nervous system cools sympathetic heat. So you want to do sympathetic techniques in an ice bath. You want to do parasympathetic techniques in a sauna. So we do things like humming, and extended breath hold. Not breath hold. Extended exhalations, rhythmic breathing, like in for 4 beats, out for 8 beats, right? And then humming. Humming produces nitric oxide, and it stimulates vagus nerve and parasympathetic, cools you down. So you're going against the heat, and that makes you stay in there longer. And then when you go slightly beyond the comfort zone is when you get all the stem cells waking up. So that's the secret. But you can also get into these meditative states, altered states, where the law of attraction and all that kind of stuff is like enhanced dramatically in the sauna. That's why it's like my church. And that's why in ancient cultures like the Finnish, Nordic people, they also consider it like their church. And Mexicans had Temazcal, right, which is also like a church. So a lot of the mainstream now saunas and stuff like you'll see in England and places like that are not true to the wisdom of what we had, because people will go in there and they'll start talking about EastEnders and you know and what's the other cheesy thing, Simon Cowell and you know X Factor
shit basically,
just bullshit, gossiping while they're meant to be meditating in the sauna. They just use it as a sweat, and they may stay in there for like 3-4 minutes. Like, what's the point? You want to go in there 20 minutes, full power, 80 degrees to 100 degrees, hotter the better, actually. We're doing 95 degrees and doing 20-minute sessions in there. And this is where you get the real growth and strength. Now, I don't recommend anyone does it straight away. You build up gradually to that. So that's what we teach in our retreats, how to build up the sauna practice. Yeah.
Excellent. And so if people don't have access to a sauna, can they recreate that at home?
You can do it. You can make your own sanctuary. You can do it in a hot tub. You know, you can fill up your bath with hot water. Do it like where you're not going to pass out. Do it mindfully. Or be careful, right? Don't hold your breath and stuff in there. But you can do like rhythmic breathing techniques, right? So, yeah, you can make some kind of experience. You can even buy like some types of saunas that are like home saunas. Aren't too expensive. But there's nothing better than a real proper Nordic sauna, right? Or a Russian sauna.
Awesome. One other final thing, and then I will let you go, is around the Ayurvedic system, because I feel like that's come up a few times, and you mentioned different types, and so if people listen to this, then I might be like, well, what's this all about? Where can people go to like learn more about that you think is like the best place? Because you know, oftentimes when they type something into Google, a lot of stuff comes up, sometimes conflicting advice. Our audience might get confused. So is there any like main resources that you've used to kind of educate on this, or where would you direct people?
Our website, our course, that's what it's all about. I'm building a software right now, which is the best Ayurvedic profiling system that our coaches will be using to spit out your report, and it's super profound. It'll be ready any day now, actually. It's almost done. So that's the best. But then there's also a really good resource. Dr. David Frawley is the best guy that I found in Ayurveda. So you read his book, like Ayurvedic Healing, stuff like that. It's really good.
Excellent.
That's it.
Well, Niraj, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. So we've obviously mentioned the 21-day course and some other programs that obviously you offer at SOMA. So it's somabreath.com, I believe. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
somabreath.com.
Awesome.
So I'll give you a link
below.
so you're...
Okay.
Yeah, I'll give you a link that where they can get a discount through you.
Okay. Excellent. Niraj, again, thank you so much. Do you have any final words of wisdom that you would have to part with the audience before we wrap this up?
Words of wisdom. Well, if we're going to stay focused on breathing, right? Check in with your breath is like a mirror of your emotional state, right? So if you're stressed, you're going to breathe in a certain way compared to when you're calm, right? So use your breath as actually a kind of a tool to measure your own emotional state. So a biofeedback device. Now, when you catch yourself like stressed and hyperventilating and breathing heavily through your mouth by unconsciously, that's your time to go and do a breath practice. And the simplest breath practice, just to close your mouth and slowly breathe in for around 6 seconds, out for around 6 seconds, through your nose, in and out rhythmically, and creating a slight feeling of this kind of air deficit or air hunger, where you kind of need to breathe, but you don't need to breathe, right? So it's like slight feeling, not too much, not too little, just the right amount. You'll get that with practice. This will calm you down, raise your CO2 levels, and start to get oxygen back to your brain so you can think more clearly. So yeah, remember your breath is a mirror of your emotions. If you want to create an emotion, you can. If you want to create anxiety, just breathe like an anxious person. If you want to have an orgasm, breathe like you would when you're having an orgasm, right? Stuff like that. If you want to go to sleep, breathe like somebody who's about to fall asleep. It's very calm and relaxed. Slow, relaxed breathing. Diaphragmatic.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's so powerful because oftentimes we don't realize that, we aren't conscious of that. So I would definitely encourage our audience to apply all of the wisdom shared here today, and I will link everything down below. But Niraj, thank you for your time. I know you're a busy man, so I will let you go. And I will speak to you soon. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks, my friend.
And for more after today's show, be sure to head on over to raisingconsciousness.show to get all of the show notes, transcriptions, videos for each episode, and a hell of a lot more. And if you got value from this episode, found it insightful, or learned a thing or two, please leave a review where you can let everyone know that this show is worth checking out. I appreciate you so much. You'll be hearing from me in the next episode.